Hi, my name is Dan Liddicott and this is Liberty Matters. This time it's a special edition from the Northern Shooting Show. It's true to say that for many people the idea of owning a gun or shooting one on a regular basis is fairly low down on their priorities, but that's not true for everyone. In fact, there is a thriving community of gun owners in the UK, whether that's people who own guns because of their job or the rural lifestyle that they enjoy or even their hobby or sport that they're involved with. And these are all legitimate, perfectly good reasons for wanting to own a firearm. Sadly, for a great many people, there seems to be a bit of hysteria around firearms, and certainly where the criminal element is concerned, that is understandable. Unfortunately, for the great body of legal firearms owners, the way the government has gone about trying to tackle gun crime has done very little to actually make people feel safer, but had a hugely disproportionate effect on legitimate firearms owners. Now, I've been to shooting shows and gun shows several times, and they're always enjoyable experiences. I never feel at all concerned about my safety there. The fact is, a great many people who have very little or almost nothing to do with firearms on a daily basis or even weekly or monthly basis hold very strong opinions about firearms. And perhaps the key to having a more balanced and reasonable debate about the future of firearms in the UK is for more people, not fewer people, to actually have professional or sporting experience and interaction with the guns they seem so worried about. I believe that if that was the case, a lot of the hysteria would die away and we could have a sensible approach to common sense legislation and actually tackle the criminal element where it matters, instead of continually taking freedoms from law-abiding people. And with that in mind, I decided I'd take the opportunity to go to the Northern Shooting Show in Harrogate to visit with Dave Ewing of Firearms UK and Mike Lindsay, journalist and libertarian who has written an awful lot on this subject, to find out what they have to say about it. When I got to the show, Mike and Dave were extremely busy. They're in demand. They've got an important message, and so that wasn't surprising to me. So I took some time to browse around. I was particularly drawn to the gun halls, several of them, where many firearms manufacturers and retailers were displaying their wares openly on show. And I suppose for me, that's the main point I want to get across, that the paranoia that so often surrounds discussions about firearms is, for the most part, completely unfounded, when literally tens of thousands of people come to these shows, and for them the idea of owning a firearm is as normal as owning a car or a toaster. When I finally caught up with Dave Ewing and Mike Lindsay, they'd just come back from a panel discussion about the firearms issues that they're seeking to address, and it was great to catch up with them. Here's what they had to say.
Hi, I'm Dave, Firearms UK's publicity manager.
And I'm Mike Lindsay, journalist and fellow Libertarian.
Wow, so we're in really good hands, and what I really want to ask you about is, why are you at this show? I mean, it's the shooting show, but what's your particular message that you're trying to get out there?
Well, for us, it's a privilege to be here just to take part and hopefully just engage with shooters, encourage them to be more unified and take part in more positive action, such as taking people shooting, but also get involved with the political side of it. Writing to MPs, challenging any misinformation, educating the public. But the real primary concern is a unified shooting community that's going to defend every discipline and getting more people out shooting. That's our real sort of core message.
Okay, so you're talking about having to defend disciplines. What's actually going on? Because for a lot of people watching this, they're not familiar with the shooting community or the rural or sporting community here. Give them some background so they know why this is so important.
Well, shooting itself is worth around £2 billion to the UK economy, and it's an important livelihood and social event for many people. It's a lifeline for many people, and it's often used by politicians and the media to, whether sensationalise things, to sell newspapers or to pretend they're tackling some of the root causes of crime and violence. And when they're not tackling the real issues, but we're a sort of scapegoat to go to. It's a bit of political whitewash, and we're just trying to educate people that we're not the law-abiding gun owners aren't the people you should be concerned about. It's criminals, and you should be holding politicians, etc., to account when they're failing to tackle the criminals and they're targeting not only a very law-abiding section of society, but a section of society that is a very vital part of the UK economy, especially the rural economy, which obviously it's not industrialised, so the shooting and country sports are again vital to the rural economy, and these are all the things that get attacked and damaged by pointless legislation.
Yeah, you're right, and I have some connection with the rural economy myself, and I always get the sense that there's perhaps two nations within the borders of the UK, that we have very much the urban nation and then we have the rural nation. And the problem is more people live an urban life than live a rural life, and so it's very easy for the culture of the rural community to be sort of wiped out by pressure from the majority who actually know nothing about it.
Yeah, I mean that is absolutely the case. I think it's been going on for probably the best part of a century now, at least. I'm not from a particularly rural background myself. I've got some family that are, and I'm sort of in the middle, the town where I come from. But I think the problem is it's not just from where you're from. There's a lot of ignorance. You get people in towns that they just don't know anything else. They don't understand, and that's again what it comes down to education. They're in a little bubble, and perhaps in the countryside there's little bubbles as well, and we need to find a sort of common ground, educate each other and find out what any problems are and iron them out. And how you do that? Well, talk to each other, get them shooting, get them out in the countryside, make them aware of why you do certain things, why things need to be done, tell them the benefits and just how vital it is to the economy and things like that. And it's also worth pointing out, not just a lot of people I think in towns, they forget where their meat comes from. You get people that are even like sort of vegans and vegetarians, if it's a whole ethical thing, and shooting itself is something that's done to protect crops, whether it's for vegetarians, vegans or meat eaters. Shooting and pest control is a way of life. It's a natural order of things, if you like, and no one is not involved in it to some degree, and I think this is something people don't realise. They think if they have a particular diet that there's no animals getting hurt, and it's not the case. It's the way the world is, and again this is something we need to educate people on.
Thank you. Maybe I can ask you, Mike, because a lot of the concerns that some people will have about firearms laws and why they perhaps want them tightening even further than they already are, is that they imagine that the alternative to what we have is the Wild West. So how would you answer that to try and help them understand where you're really trying to go with this?
Well, I think the reference to Wild West should be looking towards America. America and the UK are two completely different cultures, especially when it comes to firearms. America has the Second Amendment for one thing, which is very unregulated compared to our system, which is highly regulated. At the end of the day, making even more legislation that criminalises certain types of firearm isn't going to stop illegal use of firearms. I think it's only punishing the legal shooter. The recent spate of shootings, etc., happening in the UK aren't being done with legal firearms. They're being done with illegal firearms that have been obtained on the dark web, for example, via open borders in Europe, weaponry from the Cold War, etc., etc. Again, to target the legal shooter does absolutely nothing to stop crime. All it does is penalise people's liberty, and that's what I'm against. I believe that people should be treated with more respect and more trust than that by the government, and that's just my take on it.
And so from what you're saying, the fact that no legal firearms are used in these crimes, actually the legal gun owners are the ones who can be trusted. Yeah,
well, we're vetted to such a high degree already. We're held to a higher standard than the general citizen is. We're vetted for psychology ways, where our medical records are sifted through, the police look into us. We're honestly the most trustworthy element of society, and we'll have to be. We have to make sure that we don't do anything wrong, because if we're caught doing even the slightest infraction, we can have our firearms taken from us. So it really isn't the legal shooter that's the problem, and I think that's what I try and promote via my journalism and articles, is that the trigger doesn't pull the finger, and there's always a root cause that isn't being looked at, and the government thinks that if they're seen to be targeting legal shooters, to the general voter it looks like they're doing something proactive, when in reality they're not tackling the issue, they're merely tackling the symptom, not the disease.
Understood. That's a very clear explanation. So the question a lot of people will have then is, what is it you want to do next? Are you seeking to just stop the increase of legislation, or are you seeking to have some of it repealed and taken back?
I would say both. I mean, first things first, definitely there should be a line drawn in the sand. It's come too far, and there's no way it's for public safety anymore. They might try and sell it as that, but it's not for public safety. It's to be seen to be doing something rather than tackling the root causes, as like Mike was saying there. So yeah, first of all, nothing to change, and then hopefully as people become educated, we can maybe start seeing a reversal of some of the more daft restrictions we've had, places like the handgun ban and cell phone rifles and things like that, and just take it from there. Just educate people, and then if you get the support of the population, make them realise that this might actually, it wouldn't cause any harm, it might be beneficial, then just see what happens. But certainly, from my opinion, relaxing firearms laws, maybe perhaps using some European examples such as the Czech Republic, to their standard, it wouldn't cause any issues, and perhaps could improve public safety.
Thank you. Now, you're at the Northern Shooting Show, obviously trying to promote your organisation. How does that work? What is it your organisation does to try and get this message across?
Well, basically we talk to people, so we come to the show, we talk to people that come by, we obviously see the logo, like that was quite interesting, who are you guys? We're grateful we're allowed to take part in some podcasts and things like that, so we're talking to people, raising awareness, having discussions. We do videos online, we've got our Facebook page, a website, and we try and do the whole encompass a whole lot of things, such as we'll do opinion pieces, we'll talk about politics, but we'll also talk about firearms reviews, or hunting, or why you do certain things. Just again, it's general education, and maybe just get people to ask questions and have discussions. Are we always right? I like to think so, but probably not, and we want people to come and have discussions with us, and that's what, to me, life's all about, having discussion and hopefully leaving it more informed and better educated. So that's us, really.
Brilliant. Now, you've just had the opportunity to be involved in a panel discussion here at the shooting show. Give us some highlights from that. What kinds of questions are you asked, and how does that inform what you need to do next?
Do you want to go, or I'll go?
I'll go on ahead.
Okay, well, it's just generally, you get asked a kind of mix. Really, there's a lot of focus on the hunting aspect. So people were asking how social media can be used to promote shooting and hunting, but also you should be careful when using social media, because I think people forget it's a public forum, and there's times people are saying they posted pictures of a perfectly legal hunt, kill, but it was perhaps a bit distasteful, and we're saying that's not one of us friends. We need to be more careful and savvy how we're going to use it, and perhaps explain why these animals have been shot, not just posting a picture and things like that. And again, that's all part of the education process, and hopefully non-shooters or anti-shooters or anti-hunters see this, and again, it's about educating people, and they maybe start to think about it.
For me, one of the highlights was just basically getting across the message of unity. I've been banging this drum for a long time, and to me the shooting community is a lot stronger unified than in splintered groups. At the minute we tend to have, let's say, somebody shoots shotguns for clay pigeons, somebody would shoot, would go deer stalking, etc., etc. And it tends to be when the government rears its head and decides it wants to take more rights from the citizen, for one section of the community, the rest of the community will just duck their heads in the sand and hope to be left alone if they remain quiet. Now, this has been disastrous for shooting in the UK since the 80s.
And unfortunately, that's where we lost our video feed. But as you can see, a really fascinating insight from both David Ewing and Mike Lindsay. And so you're probably going to want to find out more. And so you can visit firearmsuk.org for more information about David Ewing's organisation. Or you can visit mike-lindsay.co.uk for more of what Mike has to say on the topic. There is plenty more to learn. And so I encourage everyone, whether you're into firearms or not, to get yourselves educated, go and visit those two websites, find out as much as you can so that you can take part in a more informed and balanced debate and hopefully actually tackle the criminal elements and preserve the rights for law-abiding citizens. Big thank you to Dave Ewing and Mike Lindsay for their time, and this is Dan Liddicott on Liberty Matters for the Libertarian Party.